So we have something kind of fun to discuss. I mean, it's not good; it's a bad thing. But I think we're gonna have a good time with it because while the bill that's been introduced is a really bad bill, it's like comically bad. It's kind of like watching a movie that's so bad that it's good. This is the legislative equivalent of that. This is the legislative equivalent of a B movie. In fact, I would like to make an announcement. I have an award that I'm going to be giving away at the end of the year. Do I plan on having bottom surgery? That's a complicated question. It's also a very personal question, but I'll go ahead and answer it for you. I don't currently have any plans to get bottom surgery, but I would like to have bottom surgery. I'm just not in a place financially or with a sort of support system where it would be practical for me to have that surgery, and I don't see those circumstances substantially changing anytime soon. So for the moment, I don't have any plans to have bottom surgery, but I wish that I could get bottom surgery because I feel that would alleviate a great deal of my gender dysphoria. Anyway, so yeah, I have an award that I'm going to be giving away at the end of the year, Worst Legislator of the Year. And we have some nominees today. Today's nominees are Senators Clemens, Veda, Weston, and Representatives Anderson, Shower, and Tviet of North Dakota, because they have introduced perhaps the dumbest piece of legislation I have ever read, certainly the dumbest one that I've read this year so far. I'm so excited. My 5-year-old just identified as a woman and will start surgery next month. Then you're a horribly irresponsible parent. And I don't know where you're finding a doctor that's going to give your 5-year-old some sort of gender-affirming surgery. You're out of your mind if that's what you're doing. But we all know that that's not what's occurring. So, you can stop. We know you're lying. Let's see here. Oh, I look like Jim Carrey in that vampire movie. I mean, that's pretty cool. I'm definitely going for a bit of a vampire look. Don't mind that. So we're going to start by taking a look at an article by Aaron in the Morning about this bill that these legislators introduced, and I think you'll see where I'm going with this as we go along. Free Top G, the Andrew Tate fans have entered the chat. How you guys holding up? Your boy's in prison. You guys doing okay? So the title of this article is North Dakota bill would require employers use pronouns associated, this is from the text of the bill, would require employers use pronouns associated with the deoxyribonucleic acid. So yeah, employers are going to be required to use the pronouns associated with one's DNA. I wasn't aware that my DNA had any pronouns. I don't know about you guys. You really like my makeup. Thank you so much. He got released. That's not what I heard. Let's take a look. Huh. Well, the most recent article I'm seeing is Romanian authorities seized nearly $4 million in ad sales from Andrew Tate. That was 7 hours ago. 2 hours ago, Andrew Tate porn ring case. Romanians haul away cars, watches worth more than $3.9 million. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything about Andrew Tate being released. I'm seeing lots of stuff about the Romanian authorities taking all of his Bugattis away from him, but I'm not seeing that he's been released. So yeah, I guess the top G hasn't been freed after all. So, onto the article rather. North Dakota has been the site of many anti-trans bills in 2023. Already has seen multiple bills proposed that would do things like ban transgender people from sports, ban transgender birth certificate updates, and medically detransition trans youth. So we're going to take a little bit of a light attitude towards this bill today because it's just so hilariously bad. But it's important to remember that there's some very bad things that are going on, and this is part of that. And this is a fight that's worth being taken seriously. But yeah, we're going to have fun with this one. One of these bills, the bill to ban trans birth certificate updates, even received a due pass from its committee hearing yesterday. It is clear that the state has set its sights on transgender people and may be the first state to pass anti-trans legislation in 2023, a year where many people are concerned that rights will be eroded in a historic fashion. It is in the states that are in a rush to... let me start that sentence over. It is in the states that are in a rush to pass anti-trans laws that we often find some of the worst proposals. Ain't that the case? We just went over that bill in Nebraska that was supposedly seeking to ban minors from attending drag shows, and in reality would make it illegal for trans people to do any sort of performance at all if there's even a chance that a minor might not be present. We need more anti-trans laws to protect children. How exactly do anti-trans laws protect children? Washington, my balls off. That's a pretty funny name. But how do anti-trans bills protect children? I'd be curious to hear your answer. Now a new bill has been proposed in North Dakota that would force any employer receiving state funding, as well as all government employees, to misgender transgender people based on the individual's deoxyribonucleic acid. Pronoun usage has come up in several bills this year, and I anticipate that we will see more bills around pronouns passed in at least one state. Most bills focus on the use of pronouns in schools and give teachers the right to misgender students. Such laws, by the way, will increase trans suicide rates. So if you're wanting to see a lot more transgender kids, that's the sort of legislation that you should support. MX Cassandra, welcome. Thank you so much for being here, and welcome back. And so to update everybody, since there's a whole bunch of people in here that weren't in here earlier, we are talking about the dumbest piece of anti-trans legislation to be introduced this year, possibly the dumbest piece of legislation that I've ever seen introduced anywhere, and it's so bad that it's actually funny, and that's what we're discussing today. And so this bill would require employers to use pronouns based off of an employee's deoxyribonucleic acid pronouns. Whatever the fuck that means. See here. Some states have ventured into compulsory pronouns, but only for students. An Arizona senator has proposed that teachers must use the pronouns that correspond to a student's biological sex unless they get permission from a parent in writing. At least this one has some basis in reality, because they're saying you should use pronouns that are in congruence with somebody's biological sex. Biological sex is a thing, and most people's pronouns are in line with their biological sex. So I guess there's at least some internal logic that you could use to come to the conclusion that a bill like that makes sense. But saying that you should use the pronouns of somebody's DNA, pronouns are a function of language. DNA is like a specific material in your body that an employer does not have access to. They can't extract it and extract the fucking pronoun gene, because there's no pronoun gene. They're being required to comply with something that doesn't exist. It doesn't make any sense. It's ridiculous. These double standards harm trans students as well as force teachers to participate in hurtful actions that may go against their own conscience. Now we have seen our first policy that targets employers and mandates that they partake in similar practices. North Dakota's SB 2199, that's the bill that we're discussing today, would mandate that all employers in the state who receive state funding, as well as all schools, institutions, state agencies, and offices, misgender transgender people at large, not just students, but all transgender people. The bill mandates, quote, the words used to reference an individual's sex, gender identity, or gender expression mean the individual's determined sex at birth, male or female. It also mandates that this be determined through the individual's deoxyribonucleic acid, their DNA. Those who violate will be charged by the state with a fee of $1,500. The bill is especially perverse. It would be compelled speech. Yeah, so let's talk about that compelled speech angle. Y'all remember when Jordan Peterson was freaking out about that bill in Canada that he said was compelled speech and was going to put people in prison or re-education camps if they misgendered people? And then, of course, that turned out not to be the case. I wonder if he's gonna freak out about this. Where's Jordan Peterson hopping up and down yelling about compelled speech in this case? That's exactly what it is. This is compelled speech. This is saying you have to use a certain set of gender pronouns. Isn't that what Jordan Peterson was opposed to? Isn't that what Jordan Peterson got famous from? Where's JP now? Where's he at, buckos? I don't see him. It would force people to act against their conscience and be a blatant violation of rights. Many individuals and corporations receive state funding. It would institutionalize the mass discrimination of transgender people across the state by hijacking Title 34 of the North Dakota Century Code, which pertains to regulations around labor and employment. Still making over $2 million a month. Why are you always talking about how much money people make? Why is that so important to you? He's subject to the re-education board right now. Hey, do you have any links or information about that? I would be very curious to know more, Jay Walker. I'm not saying you're wrong. Maybe you are right. I would actually like to know. On top of that, it would make outlandish demands of how employers and government agents should determine the gender of the people they interact with. Yeah, this is how crazy this is. The fact that the drafters of this bill include determination established by deoxyribonucleic acid shows that they have a fundamental misunderstanding of both biological sex and pronouns. We do not have he and she encoded into our DNA. This may come as a shock to you transphobes. I know you guys don't know this, but yeah, your DNA in your chromosomes, none of that says she or he. Those are words that we made up. We made that up. The DNA didn't. It's not in your DNA. It doesn't exist. One would wonder how a bill like this would treat intersex people with non-standard DNA profiles. Would people be forced to submit to mandatory DNA tests in order to determine what pronouns we should use for them? The implications of this bill are absurd. You cannot tell somebody's sex just by looking at them. There are many intersex people. There are many people whose sex characteristics don't line up with their chromosomally determined sex. This happens all the time. There's literally no way for you to determine someone's pronouns based on their DNA. And there's no way for these employers to look at someone's DNA and inspect it for pronoun juice or something. It doesn't make any damn sense. The idea of biological pronouns is something that comes up sometimes in anti-trans spaces, and every time it does, transgender people point out that there is no such thing as a biological pronoun. I'm getting real tired of pointing it out. Pronouns are human inventions, and cultures have a variety of pronouns that are not necessarily attached to gender. This does not stop many states from trying to establish that such a thing exists. A Utah rep this year sent a letter to all Utah schools saying they should follow a school resource guide from Transgender Trend that mandates, the use of quote, biological pronouns. A federal judge in a free speech case cited, quote, biological pronouns in their decision-making. A Fox News story recently reported on a Tennessee bill that would would allow teachers to use biological pronouns. Source? Trust me, bro. No, that's not my source. All of these are bills that have been introduced, and you can read them on the state legislative websites. And when I do my YouTube videos on them, I link the articles and I link the bills as well most of the time. So no, the source is not, trust me, bro. The source is all over the internet, freely available for you to look into. Bills like this would write discrimination into the law of North Dakota and would compel North Dakotans to harm their trans peers or risk facing fines of $1,500. There is no compelling state interest to force employers and government agents to misgender trans people. It is clear that freedom of speech is not what the far right desires in its treatment of transgender people. Elimination of all legal recognition is the end goal, and they are willing to go as far as to force it on transgender allies. This bill must be stopped. Despite its blatant unconstitutionality, the damage it can do, should it pass, would be severe. The bill has 3 sponsors in the Senate and 3 in the House. Clemens, Veda, Weston, Anderson, Shower, and Tviet. I've probably said some of those wrong. I will never comply to your pronouns ? I don't understand what you're asking, but yeah, lovely Dovey Zara is right. Everyone has pronouns. Whose freedom is more important? The trans community can't force speech. I agree with you. I don't think that anybody's speech or freedom is more important than anybody else's, and that's not what's happening here. What this bill is actually doing is compelling speech in the opposite direction. It is forcing people to misgender transgender folks. So if you really are opposed to forced speech, then you would have to be opposed to this bill. You don't have the right to force us to call you pronouns or calling you female. I'm not trying to force you to call me anything. This bill is trying to get you to force me to call me something. You guys are really bad at paying attention. You guys are real bad at this. If I believe in biopronouns, then I use what I want. Well, yeah, you can believe in whatever you want, and you can use whatever you want. But biopronouns don't exist. They're fake. So if you want to believe in something that doesn't exist, you're welcome to do so. Free speech just means just that. Free speech is not compelling speech. Exactly. I believe that compelling speech is wrong. The state should not be compelling speech. Corporations should not be compelling speech. The only person who should be deciding what they do or do not say is the individual. What are biopronouns? They are made up. They don't exist. So a lot of these laws are making up biological pronouns, trying to say that there's something inside of someone's body that you can look at to determine their pronouns. This bill specifically would make it illegal to refer, for certain organizations and companies and stuff, to refer to any individual by pronouns other than the ones indicated by their DNA, which obviously makes no sense. So, but like I said, I will be giving an award out at the end of the year for Worst Legislator of the Year, and these 5 have already gotten themselves in the running for it. Clemens, Veda, Weston, Anderson, Schauer, and DeVitt. I would also say that those who introduced that bill in Nebraska that claims to be banning minors from drag shows, but in reality makes it illegal for transgender people and gender nonconforming people in general to perform any sort of performance in the state. Those sponsors are no longer in the running. They've been knocked out. Like, that was bad, but this is so bad that it's literally funny. So I can't give the award to the Nebraska people because North Dakota is showing them up. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, Nebraska, step up your game. Your bills are bad, but they're not bad enough. North Dakota's beating the pants off of you. Just beating the absolute fucking brakes off of you guys. Cause of pedos? What's the cause of pedos? I agree. Who is going to pay for all of that? You guys are coming up with some extremely weird arguments for all of this. Hey, how have you been? I'm glad I could find you again, and you look pretty. Thank you so much, Blueberries and Cream. I agree with you. But yeah, we're just about done here. I'm just kind of reading and responding to some comments. Gender isn't a real thing. It was made up. Why can't there be masc in femmes of all genders? Who cares? That's from Toxic Bread 13. Toxic Bread, I mostly agree with you. I actually do think gender is a real thing, though. I think that there is a socially constructed element of gender. I agree with that. But I do think that there is, it's socially constructed, but it does exist as a social construct. And I think that there's a little bit more to it than just social construct. But, it is completely socially constructed, and I'll never stop saying this, is the gender binary. That's completely made up. That has no basis in biology, has no basis in sociology, how people interact, anything. So there is literally no basis. It is purely a social construct to try to reinforce the gender binary. So that's all that I've got today, guys. Thank you so much to the mods for keeping this one civil. This would have gone way off the rails without your help, so thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who gave gifts. Thank you to everybody for the comments and discussion, even the people who disagree. I love you all, even the assholes. Peace out.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Arya from the future. I just wanted to include this court case about gender affirming care and discrimination. I wanted to include this in YouTube, but the live that I did on it wasn't long enough to justify its own video, so I'm putting it in as part of this one. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. There's actually 2 separate TikTok lives being showed here. It would just be a little bit confusing if I didn't explain that, so just wanted to come and say that.
Galaxy Note, welcome. It's a dance? Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know a lot of the TikTok dances. I'm a bit of a boomer sometimes. Thank you for the rose. That was really lovely. I appreciate that. Okay. So, what we're talking about today is we're talking about a recent court case in a district court that ruled in favor of transgender people. We finally have some good news to go over. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And so what it is, we're talking about the case of a gentleman named, let me find the name, Jesse Hammonds. Jesse Hammonds is a transgender man who was diagnosed with gender dysphoria and had a surgery scheduled at a hospital to treat that gender dysphoria. And when he, the night before he was scheduled to have the treatment, it was canceled. And the only reason it was canceled was because of the fact that he's transgender. So we're going to go over an article on the case. We actually have a couple articles pulled up here. And then we'll talk about it, and we're going to talk about my personal experience of being denied medical care solely because I am transgender. So yeah, let's get into this. So this article that we're reading right now, it's from, let's see here, Baltimore, CBS News, Baltimore. Transgender man wins lawsuit against St. Joseph after hospital cancels hysterectomy. So let's get into it. A federal judge ruled that the University of Maryland St. Joseph Medical Center discriminated against a transgender Baltimore man on the basis of sex when the hospital canceled his hysterectomy in 2020. Jesse Hammond said he was all ready for the surgery in January 2020 when the hospital canceled the surgery the night before it was scheduled. The surgery was recommended by Hammond's physician to treat gender dysphoria. So Hammonds is a transgender man, and his doctor, who has diagnosed him as having gender dysphoria, said that what they should do to address that problem is to have a hysterectomy. And the hospital agreed, and they scheduled the surgery and then canceled it the night before. The Townsend Hospital's chief medical officer told the surgeon that it, quote, cannot do transgender surgery at St. Joseph. This is, of course, after they had already scheduled it. His story really is a powerful example of the impact that these policies have on real people. ACLU senior staff attorney Josh Block told WJZ, which is the local affiliate of CBS, Friday, St. Joseph has a duty to treat everyone equally, including transgender patients. Judge Deborah Chasanow ruled St. Joseph, a hospital in the University of Maryland medical system, violated the Affordable Care Act when it discriminated against Hammonds. Yes, it is terrible, isn't it? Block says because the hospital is state-run, it must treat all patients equally. The government has no business running a religious hospital and enforcing religious doctrine, Block said. The hospital needs to be following secular laws, and that's not the right place to be having a religious institution. Any damages would have to be awarded after the trial, the judge said. In a statement to WJZ, the local CBS affiliate, a spokesperson for St. Joseph Medical Center blamed the lawsuit on a surgeon who mistakenly scheduled the surgery. Listen, surgeons don't mistakenly schedule surgeries. Scheduling a surgery is a big deal, especially a trans-affirming care type of surgery. So if they were planning to do this, they knew exactly what they were getting into. And not defendant, the opposite of the defendant. What's that word? What's the word that I'm looking for? Son of a bitch. Whatever. Jesse Hammonds is a transgender man. So when a man asks you for a hysterectomy, there's a pretty clear indication that it might have something to do with gender affirming care. And the hysterectomy was ordered specifically as a treatment to gender dysphoria. So the hospital knew what was going on when they scheduled it. Somebody noticed, the right person, or rather the wrong person, noticed that gender affirming care was going to be going on and put a stop to it. Prosecution. No, that's not the word I'm thinking of. Plaintiff. That's the word that I'm thinking of. Plaintiff. The plaintiff in this case was a transgender man named Jesse. But yeah, this sort of thing happens all the time. So most medical professionals get into the career field because they want to help people. And so when they see that somebody has gender dysphoria, they want to treat it if it's within their power, and so they try to do that. But very often there are institutional powers within the organization that they work that prevent them from doing it. And it can just take one person wanting to cause problem for the transgender patient, and they don't get the medical care that they need. So I'll give you an example in my own case. There's a community mental health center that I go to because it's basically all that I can afford a lot of times. And one time I went there because I needed to get an EKG. One of my one of my healthcare providers was concerned that I may have heart problems in reaction to a medication that I was taking. And so she said that in order to get my prescription refilled, I was going to have to get an EKG taken care of first. It's allergy season over here. And so I went to this health center to get the EKG, and the doctor came in, looked at my chart, said, it looks like this EKG could be used for transitional care. I don't provide transitional care, and walked out of the room. So this person didn't want to give me an EKG. They didn't want to make sure that my heart wasn't going to give out simply because I was transgender. That same medical center provides my mental health medication, and they're aware of all of my diagnoses, including the diagnosis of gender dysphoria. Yet when I ask my medication provider, hey, can you please prescribe me these HRT drugs to treat my gender dysphoria, she says no, because she is not allowed to provide transitional care due to her boss. Her boss, in this case, being the medical provider that refused the EKG for me. And this sort of thing happens to people all the time. I can't tell you how many times I've heard stories of trans folks who are denied medical care solely on the basis of the fact that they are transgender. It happens all the time. So I know this is a short one. I'm going to call it here, but I just wanted to bring attention to this. I wanted to bring attention to this court case. The courts are on our side. At the very least, this district court in New York is on our side. And I also just wanted to deliver this message that people know this sort of thing happens to us all the time. And if it's happening to you, keep fighting, because there is hope. We can win. It's going to take a lot of effort, and maybe we aren't always up to the task. And if that's the case, it's all right. But when we can, we should fight back, because it makes a difference. Anyway, I love you guys. Bye.